My name is Daryl Grigsby, and I'm a member of the FutureChurch Board of Trustees. I've also had the pleasure on multiple occasions to spend time with this year's Father Louis Trivison recipient, Dr. Cynthia Bailey Manns, and this is an honor beyond measure to introduce her to you tonight. Named in memory of FutureChurch co-founder, Father Louis Trivison, this award is given to a Roman Catholic who exhibits outstanding leadership in advancing FutureChurch's Vatican II mission in one or more areas of teaching, administration, research, publication, advocacy, and pastoral care. Tonight, we are honored to present the 2025 Father Louis Trivison Award to Dr. Cynthia Bailey Manns. Dr. Bailey Manns is one of 4 lay people from the United States who were appointed by Pope Francis as the first lay women and men voting delegates to participate at the General Assembly of the Synod of Bishops on Synodality in October 2023 and 2024. She is also one of 6 St. Paul and Minneapolis Archdiocesan representatives in the continental phase of the pre-Synod preparations. And at the request of Archbishop Hebda, Dr. Bailey Manns ably represented the Archdiocese on the team that worked with the World Council of Churches and the Dicastery for the Promotion of Christian Unity to draft the international materials for the 2023 Week of Prayer for Christian Unity. In her daily life, Cynthia is the Director of Adult Learning at St. Joan of Arc Catholic Community in Minneapolis, a community whose vision is to be visible, progressive Catholic community, compassionate, and welcoming to all. She holds a Doctor of Ministry and Spiritual Direction from the Graduate Theological Foundation in Florida and currently serves as adjunct faculty at United Theological Seminary in the Twin Cities. She's an experienced soul companion / spiritual director, supervisor, and retreat leader with emphasis on human development, spirituality, spiritual formation, and soul care for lay and ordained leaders and sacred activism. From FutureChurch's perspective, there has been no stronger advocate or more committed champion of both the principle and process of synodality than Dr. Bailey Manns. And while she listened to all voices and carried all voices with her to the Synod, Dr. Bailey Manns was especially open to hearing and uplifting the voices of women, African Americans, the LGBT community, and others whose voices for too long have been silenced or ignored. And FutureChurch and our work for a more just and inclusive church has been greatly benefited by Cynthia's commitment to synodality. Shortly after returning home from the Synod in Rome, she offered the keynote FutureChurch 2023 fall event, Synodality, Where Have We Been and Where Are We Going?, offering in-depth reflections on her experience at the Synod and highlights and disappointments and suggestions for moving forward as a synodal church. In 2024, she scheduled 2 summer listening sessions with FutureChurch community intended to focus on women in the church and on lay leadership, but quickly and ably adjusted this listening session to a listening session on the working document that had been released that very same day. Receiving the concerns of those gathered, that discussion of women deacons had been moved from the Synod to the Dicastery for the Doctrine of Faith. She was also a panelist at our program, Habemus Papam, after the election of Pope Leo, offering reflections about Pope Leo and synodality. She has twice preached for Catholic Women Preach on Holy Thursday 2024 and Easter Sunday 2025. And on July 22nd, she presented Boston College's Mary Magdalene celebration, sharing how Mary Magdalene's leadership, witness, and authority created a path for the Synod mothers to speak and serve in their authority on behalf of themselves and others as baptized missionary disciples of the church. And as I recall that event, if you didn't get to see it, I recommend you find it. But she closed with inspiring words about how she took Sister Thea Bowman with her to the Synod. And it was a beautiful summary of that talk. I also wanted to add, I mentioned in the beginning that I worked with her. Uh, I've met with her a couple of times, mostly like this online, but we co-facilitated a session at the University of Dayton on synodality and the promise of Black women deacons. And I also attended 2 listening sessions she held with Black Catholics in the United States before she went to the Synod. So I just wanted to say, for me personally, her very presence is an inspiration. And her CV, which I received today, I just wanted to read a couple of lines from it under her professional summary. It says, I am an embodied spirit, a spiritual being on a human journey, and a human being on a spiritual journey, with both leading me to a deeper relationship with my God, my sacred. This ongoing transformational journey allows me to witness the impact of how I live my journey with those who I encounter. I am grateful for the opportunities to accompany others as they awaken their spirituality, deepen their relationship with their sacred, engage in loving, empathetic dialogue and deep listening, and be present to themselves and others in times of suffering, uncertainty, healing, and joy. So for me personally, Dr. Manns represents what is right, true, and just about the Catholic faith, and actually is one of the reasons I can say I'm proud to be Catholic. So Cynthia, it's truly our joy and privilege to present you with Future Church's 2025 Father Louis Trivison Award in deep gratitude and recognition for your care-filled and faithful service to the people of God, and especially to those at the margins as a delegate to the Synod on Synodality. Everyone, please join me in welcoming, congratulating, and thanking Dr. Cynthia Bailey Manns.
Thank you, Daryl, for your moving introduction. Your friendship is deeply important to me, and I celebrate the gift you are in my life. Thank you. Tonight's theme, The Spirit Still Speaks, invokes a question for me that requires contemplation and action. How do we create and sustain a church that fosters a sense of belonging, allows us to flourish through the use of our gifts and talents, and calls us to serve in love? This question requires me to sink into my understanding of sacred activism, which Andrew Harvey describes as the fusion of the mystic's passion for God with the activist's passion for justice, creating a third fire, which is the burning sacred heart that longs to help, preserve, and nurture every living thing. Future Church embodies love in action. It embodies sacred activism as it fulfills its mission of seeking changes that will provide all Roman Catholics the opportunity to participate fully in church life, ministry, and governance. Chris, Deborah, Betty Ann, Ruth, and Russ all are gifts to me as they intentionally create space for me to share my Synod experiences, to preach on Catholic Women Preach, and share my passion for Mary Magdalene, the first proclaimer of the resurrection. I cannot express how much your support meant to me during my time in Rome and during this implementation phase of the final document. All of you opened doors in our church that created the opportunity for lay delegates to participate in the Synod. And believe me, the Spirit spoke at the Synod and continues to speak now. When the 6-hour reading of the final document was completed with each paragraph read out loud and voted on, feelings of joy, grief, accompaniment, and now what were visible in the room. I knew what we had accomplished was a first in the church's history, especially when Pope Francis made the document magisterium. I felt relief and hope when it was announced in March that Pope Francis created the Synod's new 3-year implementation phase at all levels of the church, with dioceses, bishops' conference, and religious communities working to integrate synodality into their daily church life. When Pope Francis died, I was concerned about what would happen with the implementation phase, including Study Group 5 regarding women's participation in the church and paragraph 60. Study Group 5, led by Cardinal Victor Manuel Fernandez, prefect for the Dicastery for the Doctrine of Faith, focuses on theological and canonical manners regarding specific ministerial forms, particularly the participation of women in the church. The group is tasked with exploring the possibility of women deacons. Through its recent work, has shifted to a broader reflection of sacramental power and the authority entrusted to women. As we know, there was tension regarding Study Group 5's report to the Synod delegates. The report lacked details about its activities and its members. After additional meetings attended by Synod delegates pushing back on the lack of accountability, transparency, and co-participation, a more expansive report with this work is expected in December 2025. Paragraph 60, although it did not give us a clear yes regarding women deacons, it does state that the question of women's access to diaconal ministry remains open. It also identifies that more attention be given to the language and images used in preaching, teaching, catechesis, and the drafting of official documents, giving more space to the contribution of female saints, theologians, and mystics. Paragraph 60 begins with the statement, by virtue of baptism, women and men have equal dignity as members of the people of God. An interesting inclusion in the final document is in part 2, the conversion of relationships. Theologian Anna Rowlands, a participant in the Synod, speaks to the specific language in the document regarding the relationship between men and women in the church. This is important, so stay with me as I summarize her synopsis. A distinctive feature of the final document compared to other documents produced by the Vatican in a more magisterium way on the question of women is that this text uses the language reciprocity than the formal complementarity to talk about the relationship with men and women. Formal for some reason I cannot say this word now. Formal complementarity language, being the relationship between men and women, is rooted in biological essential difference, and that there is a okay, hold on for a second. My tongue is tied up and I can't say this word. Complementarily, but strongly differentiated set of rules and even characteristics in some instances one might associate with men and women. For example, women are seen as nurturers and maternal, also known as the Marian principle, and the Petrine principle that refers to the unique authority and role of the Apostle Peter and his successors, the popes, as the head of the church, i.e., the men are in charge. The final document does not use this language and introduces the use of reciprocity in relationship between men and women. This is a change in the language used to describe the relationship between men and women in the church. Let me read that piece again. There is strongly different, the Marian principle is the strongly differential set of rules and even characteristics in some instances one might associate with men and women. Women are seen as maternal and nurturing, and the Petrine principle that refers to the unique authority and role of men in the church. The final document does not use this language and introduces the reciprocity of relationships between men and women. This is a change in the language used to describe the relationship between men and women in the church. And keep in mind that this is a highly diverse group from all over the world with different views on basic gender anthropology, sexual differences, and the practical roles of men and women in the life of the church. Yet, we discerned and included this common language that was agreed upon for the reframing of women's participation in the church. I'm excited and hopeful to see where this reframing takes us in the future. After all, as paragraph 60 ends, what comes from the church cannot be stopped. I end with gratitude to all of you who have shared your dreams and hopes and concerns and fears about our church with me. I am grateful to have your sacred stories to share at the Synod, and I am grateful to be able to continue to do this and create important sacred work. Your commitment to justice to all, for all the members of the God's family, God's beloved community, will keep our church moving forward to be our church that fosters a sense of belonging, allows us to flourish through the use of our gifts and talents, and calls us to serve and love. Indeed, the Spirit keeps speaking. Our responsibility is to listen with the ears of our heart. Thank you.